Hi, thanks for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. I'm Andrea Klim, and today is November 23rd, 2020, and the clocks are chiming to tell you what time it is, and I guess um, they want to join in. But thanks for tuning in today. I'm going to be talking about empaths versus narcissists today, and the signatures that we can identify these traits in the astrology birth chart, in your birth chart. And so I want to just explain to you about where I am. I'm visiting my family up in Massachusetts and New Hampshire for the holidays. I'm very lucky to be doing this. I haven't been back in 5 years, so I'm really thrilled to be here. And what you see behind me is a portrait of my great-grandmother, DeRoche's, and that's from the 1800s. And so it's very special. So I'm visiting my older sister here, who's a year and a day older than me, and we're just getting ready to have a great Thanksgiving. So anyway, today going to be talking about, as I said, empaths versus narcissists and the signatures we see in an astrology birth chart. And this is something that I've identified because I was in quite a few different relationships that had this type of signature. And I'm an empath. And so what I've done is and empaths are very sensitive people. They're some of the most sensitive people there are in the world. And there's different types of empaths, and there's different types of narcissism. So I'm actually going to be doing a class on this particular topic coming up. And so I'm going to be putting that information out pretty soon, but I want to show you a signature in the astrology chart for right now, the present chart, the universal chart. And I did a chart, so I'm going to share my screen and show that to you. And so this is the chart of the moment right now. And I'm in Attleboro, Massachusetts. And what we can see is that presently the moon is right next to Neptune. And I felt like today was really the appropriate time for me to record because of the moon being the closest body to us here on Earth, being conjunct, meaning right beside Neptune, the planet of unconditional love, deep understanding, sensitivity. And the moon is highlighting the energy of Neptune right now. So emotionally, there's a depth of sensitivity. And you heard me talk about on the last show that I recorded that I'm just going to come back to full screen here for a second and stop the share for a second. You've heard me talk about in the past, when I recorded the other day with my friend Nicole, about the North Node in Gemini and the South Node in Sagittarius and the square that it's forming to Neptune. And today, the moon in Pisces is right next to Neptune. That means that this energy is emphasized. It means that it is huge. And so we're all feeling this energy from a very deep place. Now, as I said before, there are different signatures that are recognizable through an astrology birth chart. And by that, I mean patterns of inherited behavior. And we can identify where they come from, whether it's from the paternal DNA, meaning the father's DNA and the father's ancestral background, or the maternal DNA, which is the moon, and the maternal DNA, and meaning the mother's background or her history or her ancestors. And so there's many different ways of looking at this, but I call them signatures, and they're patterns recognizable in our lives. So I have to start off, I want to make upfront some recommendations of some really great resources. And to work with your astrology, I can recommend resources. I can recommend healing modalities. I can recommend different types of meditation. I can recommend different types of shamanic journey practices that are extremely helpful in dealing with these patterns. And we're all presently, because of that South Node in Sagittarius, we're all of us presently looking at understanding our past only so that we can gather the information, Gemini, the North Node in Gemini, to move forward. Gemini is about gathering information. Sagittarius is about seeking, searching the truth. Where does that truth come from? And we're not meant to be living in the past. However, until we heal the past or we find peace with the past, until we find those signatures of, I would say that would be the root of where this behavioral patterns come from, which is identifiable in an astrology birth chart, we're not able to move forward because we're like on a hamster wheel going around and around and around and around. And we tend to, as humans, repeat the same patterns over and over and over again without consciously knowing it. And then we say, how did we get here again? So I'm going to show you, I'm going to go back and share my screen with you and show you the chart of, okay, so let's hide this panel. So what you're looking at this very moment is 1:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I am in Attleboro, Massachusetts, and this is a universal chart, meaning it's energy influences that affects us all, influences us all. Astrology is a great tool for navigation, for understanding our patterns, for understanding the energy that was present, that formed our ego, that shaped us. And we can see in an astrology birth chart so many things. And it is, I have to disagree with, there's some astrologers that say that, oh, you can't, astrology doesn't tell you what to do. That's true. It does not tell you what to do, but what it can tell you is where this energy came from and how you can change your responses through exercises and through first of all, you need to understand where these patterns came from, what's at the root of them, and then what to do about it to form new patterns. And depends on whether it's mutable, cardinal, or fixed, whether it's easier, or you can change your actions or reactions, or it's going to take, the fixed ones typically take, I've noticed, I would call it an act of God and divine intervention, because those walls or those experiences have gone over and reoccurred over many, 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 many lifetimes. And so there's what I would call fixed or frozen patterns. And typically, these are patterns that they don't even realize exist. And so it's much more difficult to work with. And so, but mutable is the easiest, then the cardinal, which is about changing your actions, and then the fixed is the will. The will has to be accepting or surrendering to that this is something I need to look at within myself. And one of the things about this this square. You see Neptune over here where I'm circling with my mouse? This is Neptune, the planet, and it is currently retrograde. It's going to be turning direct at the end of November. And it's right next to the moon right now. And it's in this particular area of the chart, which is the 12th house. And it is squaring the north node of the moon, meaning the direction we're all meant to go at this time. And that is this part of the chart right here is indicative of the family looking to the roots of who we are to identify the information that can change our future. The south node of the moon is up here in the 10th house. 10th house is the house of, or the area, it tells us about the area of our life universally right now that is being influenced. And that means our careers, our reputation, how people see us, and what that truth is. Now we've got what we call a mutable T-square happening here, and this is coming from the past and our past beliefs, our past understanding, our past religious or spiritual knowledge. Also, it could be also that there's things that are rising to the surface right now politically. Sagittarius can be about politics. It can also be about the law of the land, and also the spiritual laws. So we have a mutable T-square from the south node of the moon to the moon in Pisces next to Neptune, squaring the north node. So our families, our homes, our roots, our heritage, our tribes, our domestic property, where we come from, the roots of our being, is in opposition to the south node. So we're connected with our past is connected with our future. And I think that everybody on this earth at this time is in some way looking at where they've been, researching what that looks like as we go through this incredible time of transition on earth. And it's an awesome thing. It is just an awesome thing that this is happening right now. However, there is a lot of suffering that is occurring. Neptune, when it is squared, and the moon is our emotions, our feelings, our way of unconsciously responding to experiences. And Neptune is also about our dreams. And when it's squared, though, it brings up influences of suffering, of confusion, of deception, of non-clarity, feeling like we are stuck in this abyss and we can't see forward. However, I want to say something about the abyss, because at this time we also have Mercury, the planet that influences our minds, our thinkings, our way of communicating, our way of making decisions. Do you see these blue lines trining Neptune and the moon? That means that there's so much truth that is surfacing right now. Scorpio is the detective, the investigator, and it is just, Scorpio is one of the most intense signs of the zodiac because it's fixed. And so when you have Scorpio energy around, there's typically a reservation about it, but there's also this incredible sensitivity and compassion. And Scorpio, in the most positive sense, is an energy that supports us through a time of life and death experiences. It helps us to eliminate mentally, Mercury, mental, mind, Scorpio, elimination, identifying what's toxic, what we need to move away from. So this is what I'm saying. This is awesome what we have happening right here, because as we see and feel and look into the depths of our emotional foundations, the moon can also be about the family, and we've got a lot of family energy going on in this chart today. So this is actually a signature of why it's so important, this mutable T-square from the south node, meaning the past, to us emotionally on many deep levels, to the north node of the moon, meaning the direction we're going. So our challenge right now is to identify these unhealthy patterns and identify the areas where we've experienced suffering, identify the areas where we felt loss, identify the areas where addiction, meaning there's more than one type of addiction. I mean, there's addiction to drugs, there's addiction to alcohol, there's sexual addiction, there's addiction through escaping by working all the time, which I'm very guilty of, working on that one. There's gaming. Gaming is an addiction. It's a way of escaping from reality. Addictive behaviors, narcissists, empaths, narcissists. These can be that we are addicted to relationships, either way, that keep us feeling safe in what we know. And we're not meant to stay in the past. We're meant to move forward. We're meant to gather the knowledge, the information. Gemini is all about communicating. It's about networking. It's about reading. It is about talking. It is about going. You know, Gemini can be also, with this squaring effect going on, it can be that we get caught in these loops of doing the same thing mentally that we've done in the past. And the challenge right now for all of us, and where our growing pains are, is identifying these patterns that no longer serve us, identifying what the truth is. And the truth isn't always easy to look at. So you're seeing this in the chart, and I don't want to go on and on and on about it, but I wanted to really convey to you the incredible knowledge and wisdom that is available through astrology. Astrology has changed my life, and thousands, I mean, we as astrologers, our job is to serve you, you know, to help other people to understand where they come from. What does that look like? Why do I behave this way? Why do I respond this way? What's at the root of that? You know, there's wonderful things that can be identified through astrology, but they're the things that we don't want anybody to see. So an astrology birth chart is a map of what your soul carried into this life. It also tells about past lives. It can tell you all your past lives and what that looked like and why that has affected or influenced your current life. Because, as I said before, going forward is where we're meant to go. But to understand the old patterns of behavior, to research them, which is Sagittarius, the South Node in Sagittarius right here. This is where the inspiration is coming from, the past. And we can't get to the future if we don't understand our past. And when I hear somebody say, just get over it, just don't act like that anymore, it kind of goes through me because I'm very empathic. I understand from my past how deeply these patterns and how deeply these emotions can be within us. So when someone says to me or says to someone around me, just get over it, that doesn't go well with me because it takes time. It takes that person wanting to do that. And none of us has the right to tell someone else what to do or how to do it. We can only recommend and support them along the way. And that's what's changing in this world right now. And, you know, I've worked very hard for 22 years and I've got a lot more to go. And I do the very best I can to support my clients on their life path and all my students. And I've written a book called The Language of Astrology that is about to be published, and is something that I teach. And in fact, I have 102 coming up. So if you've got a little bit of astrology background, December 3rd, I'm starting a Zoom 102 class, which is going to be taking a look at full interpretation of the birth chart. Most of the students already in that class went through my 8 weeks of studying with me, and all the classes are recorded, and those are all on PDF. And so they're, I teach from Zoom. But if you are interested in joining the 102, you can, for creating that firm foundation, you can order from me the 8 classes for half the price of the next set of classes. So it's $115 for 8 classes, or half of that price if you want to just purchase the PDFs, which are 8 weeks of 2 hours of step-by-step pages that form the book that I've written, The Language of Astrology. And it's an ancient language, very sacred. And for you to learn anything about astrology is awesome. I had a teacher one time that said, any book you can get about astrology, it's great. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is supportive. And there's so much wisdom that we're bringing from the past, the South Node in Sagittarius, that can help us connect to the future. So I want to give you, before I end the show today, and please do contact me if you'd like to join, sign up for my 102. And the syllabus for that's starting December 3rd. And so that's coming pretty quick. And I'd love to see you in the class. We have a lot of fun. It's interactive, and it's all recorded on Zoom. And those Zoom classes are sent to you. So if you miss a class, there's no worry. You can go back over the recording and catch up. Or, astrology takes a lot of time to learn. You can get your bachelor's, your master's, and your PhD. So there's a lot of education involved. But to have the foundational steps to follow with my book, The Language of Astrology, is incredibly supportive. So, and you can contact me at Andrea@turntothestars.com, or you can text me. There's many different ways. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. My website is turntothestars.com. And here's some resources for you that I have found to be extremely helpful if you want to tackle this on your own. And sometimes that's the very best way. Or, as I said before, you can contact me. I am a shamanic practitioner, and I have many different types of meditations and shamanic journeys that are supportive of the healing process. But it's really important that we identify what that looks like for you before, there's a full conversation that we'd have to have. We'd take a look at your birth chart and discuss where you're at right now and what I would recommend. And if I can't help you, I have a lot of really wonderful people in my network that can help you, because, not everybody is meant to work with everybody. Some of us mesh up with certain people rather than other people. So here's I'm going to give you some resources. And these are these are channels on YouTube. The first one is Dr. Ramani, and she talks about the empath and the narcissist and a dark fairy tale. So you might want to look that up on YouTube. The next resource is one I absolutely love. And all of these I love because they are so incredibly filled with knowledge and guidance. And Lee Harris, he is super. He's a channeler. And he has a course called Empaths versus Narcissists. And then there's Candace Van Dell, and she has something on YouTube called Healing Emotional Wounds. And the fourth resource here is called Empaths Refuge. And it's 5 major things, the topic of the one that I recommend. And there's many out there, so you can browse. But the one I recommend is the 5 major things that happen when an empath loves a narcissist. So an empath is someone who has so much compassion, and they are so sensitive. And if they're treated poorly or abused, especially by a parent or somebody in their upbringing, those patterns tend to stick. And then they go looking for the power, the strength that comes from that narcissist. And so they're used to being abused. They're used to living with these type of environmental influences. So it can be very difficult for the person who's the empath, because they hope that the narcissist will change. They hope that the narcissist will treat them better. And the narcissist can be very good at constantly pulling them back into the same pattern. And so learning to say no is a huge step for the empath. But it takes a lot more than that, because I am an empath and I'm easily drawn back into the narcissistic. You can feel the power that they wield, their strength. And the empath often, it's almost like food to them, because that's what they are accustomed to feeling in their life. And when that is taken away, they don't really know who they are. And this is typically a very common, and this is all coming up right now. And it was interesting, my son called me. I actually called my son this morning. I have 2 children. My son's 32, my daughter's 22. And my son is dealing with some past addictive behavioral patterns, and recommending some things to him for helping. And it is my son, so, and he's got a wonderful heart. And so it's really important, though, that we talk to our families and that we understand where this comes from. Or you can call me, because we can identify it in your birth chart. And whatever's safest for you, because it's really important for the empath to find a place of safety. And so the 5th, I'm going to come back here to the 5th resource on YouTube, which is Kim Saeed. And she talks about 7 painful truths empaths must eventually face about narcissists. She talks about abuse recovery. She has an abuse recovery program, which is highly effective, that therapists are referring their own patients to. And then we have Dr. Les Carter, Empaths and Narcissists and Surviving Narcissism. So this is something, like I said, that I've experienced in my life. My father was a narcissist, and, God bless him where he's at right now, because he's in a good place. And my mother was extremely empathic, and I believe that, she passed away at 55 years old. And you can see throughout the years in the pictures, her smile was slowly becoming a sadness. And so it's as a child growing up in that type of atmosphere, you take on those behavioral patterns, because those are your parents. And so we're all on earth right now in a place where we're healing the past. The most important thing is that we're healing the past, but first we need to understand it. So it's incredibly important to identify this and to recognize it. Otherwise, it's never going to change. And we are coming upon a lunar eclipse on November 30th, which is what we call a North Node lunar eclipse. And I'm going to show you what that looks like real quick. This is November 30th and Eastern Standard Time at 6:07 a.m. We have a lunar eclipse in Gemini, North Node. And lunar eclipses set the precedence or the theme emotionally by what's highlighted in our life. And the clocks are chiming again. I'm surrounded by these incredible grandfather clocks everywhere in where I'm recording in my sister's house. It's just mystical. Anyway, lunar eclipse, what's going to be highlighted for all of us emotionally is the things that we think about, the stories we tell ourselves, but those stories are our stories, and nobody can tell us that that's not what happened to us or that's what we experienced, because in our minds, it's our story and it's important. A very dear friend of mine said to me the other day, because I was feeling kind of out of sorts, and they were just so happy to hear that I was in a different place than the last time I talked to them. And this person said to me, put your left hand over your heart, your right hand over it, and say, I'm worth it, because you are. And it just makes you feel so good. So this lunar eclipse is actually forming a pretty powerful, you can see the sun in Sagittarius opposite the moon, full moon, illuminating relationships, illuminating the important knowledge that's available to all of us, and that this is a direction we're meant to go, everybody on this earth, and we're meant to understand both sides of things. That's Gemini. We're meant to communicate. We're meant to think about and sort out what that new direction is going to look like. However, very, very important that we understand this is a mutable T-square, a mutable cross square off, mutable cross squared off. And so it's so important for us to put ourselves, especially if you're an empath, and if you have a mutable cross squared off in your chart, or a lot of mutable energy, meaning that you have Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, or Pisces energy in your chart. If you have, like I said, this is the mutable cross squared off, and it is a cross that somebody bears when they have this in their chart, of the world expecting them to adapt and change to suit them. So by that I mean the world or people that they come into, that comes along in their life, or that they end up relating to, they adapt and change themselves. They're like chameleons. They just, mutate. So because it's a matter of survival, but we can change these patterns. And I had an experience the other day with a client, and I made a mistake, and I apologized for the mistake. And this client is just so angry, and that's their pattern of response: anger. You did this to me, you did that to me. And I apologized, and that was the best I could do, and provided, a report that is a lifetime report for them, just because I made a mistake and I was sorry, but the person's caught in a pattern of feeling abuse. And so they're on the path of understanding themselves, but the anger that is being acted out on in this world right now is also an area where we're learning so much about ourselves. So I'm not going to respond to somebody from anger, a place of anger, because I've had that same experience. And if you respond to anger with anger, there's just a mess. So the only way to heal that is through a loving response. So anyway, there's one more resource I'm going to recommend, and that's Dr. Les Carter. And The title is Empaths and Narcissists, Surviving Narcissism. So everyone, I want to say thanks for tuning in today. As you know, we're going to, as you heard me say, we're going to be having at Turn to the Stars a regular schedule, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, every week of special guests. We have AT Man coming on December 4th, and you can look him up on Wikipedia. AT Man, Tad Man, he's the author of about 19 books, one of my most respected teachers. And I'm not sure which, we're figuring out which topic to talk about. And hopefully I'm going to be able to make available a Q&A on YouTube so that you can ask questions in the midst of the program. We also have this Wednesday, this week coming up. So today is Monday, okay? Yeah, today's Monday. Let me come back to the chart right here, right now. I'm forgetting the days, they're going so fast because time is just moving so fast right now. But today is Monday, November 23rd. It's 1:49 p.m. And so Wednesday, the 25th, I'm going to be recording, and my guests are going to be Gwen Berry from Daughters of Isis, and hopefully Nicole Tomasini from Spirit Therapy NYC will join us again. But the topic is going to be plants and planets and the relationship and how that shows up in astrology. And Gwen is going to provide us with some great information. She's an alchemist, meaning that she's able to work with plant medicine. And so she makes lots and lots of different essential oils and sprays, thieves being one of them. Thieves is so, so important right now. If you don't have thieves, I'd highly recommend you get it. I traveled by plane from Florida, Orlando Airport to Boston yesterday, and I have what's called a Pro Mask, which has a ventilator that you charge, and it has a HEPA filter inside of it, and it has 3 speeds, so it blows air up into your HEPA mask on your face. But I put the thieves on the outside, on the inside, and inside the ventilator. And thieves protects you. It doesn't allow any bacteria to stick to it. And if you look up the history behind thieves, the story was during the Black Plague, the thieves would rob the rich people who had died from the Black Plague. And I think they were mainly paganists and people that worked with the plant medicines of the earth. And they came up with something called thieves, which was a combination of herbs that they made a tincture out of. And they would apply it to their hands, to their whole body. And they'd wear masks, they put it on their masks, and none of the bacteria from the Black Plague would stick to them. So they would rob the homes of the wealthy people, and they used this plant medicine to protect them from getting sick. So it is highly effective. I traveled here yesterday. I had the thieves on my hands, on my clothes. I had it on my mask, on the inside, the outside, on my ventilator. And when I arrived here, I took my clothes off and put new clothes on because this virus is very, very real. And depending on who you are and your level of immunity, it's important to have these things to protect yourself. And so not coming from a place of fear, but from a place of equipping ourselves to move through this time and support each other to stay well. And the other thing that I do that keeps me well is I drink chaga tea, and we're going to be having Jim Glidden from Chaga. He's a nature man. He's been on my TV show before when I was back in New Hampshire, and I've been drinking chaga for years. Chaga is a mushroom that grows on the yellow birch and the white birch up north, meaning in New England. It was discovered in Russia by a doctor who had cancer, and he discovered his own cure. So Jim is going to be a guest on the show coming up real soon. Just kind of give you an idea of what we have coming up. It's really exciting. So we're going to supply you with a lot of North Node information, meaning a lot of North Node new direction that keeps us all healthy. But mentally, we are human beings. We are a spirit. That's why we're alive, because there's spirit inside of us. The soul carries the memories from other lifetimes. It carries the memories, the unconscious, in the unconscious, and in our long-term memory. And then the mind and the body, basically the soul is made up by the mind and the body and the emotions. But there was someone that said to me a long time ago who came to me, a client, his name Michael, and he sent me an email and said, I've just been diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. And I worked with him. I had just graduated from a whole year of intensive shamanic education. And my very, very first client to work with the healing modalities and with astrology was this young man, 38 years old, who had just been diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. And he was brilliant, a man who was highly successful during the 2008 financial collapse, and a brilliant man and a very humane man, a very strong man. But he contacted me in July. By Thanksgiving, he was in a wheelchair and wasn't less than 2 years that he lived. And he said to me at one point, when he was in the wheelchair, he was almost completely disabled. He said, Andrea, it's not what they say, mind, body, spirit. He said, it's spirit, soul, mind, and body. And I call it SSMB. And I pass on his knowledge to you because he was a really important person in my work. And I mean, I worked with him and his wife, really special lady, Lauren, with everything I knew. And his journey was not about surviving and overcoming Lou Gehrig's disease. It was about learning how to willfully accept that this was his path and that he wouldn't be able to control the outcome of this. His path was to surrender and to learn how to accept this destiny and to love it in the best way he could. A really wonderful, wonderful person. I'll never forget him. And so it's spirit, soul, mind, and body. Our spirit keeps us alive. That divine light of created, God, goddess, whatever you call it, whatever that light is for you. The soul made up of the mind, the emotions, and the body. So if the mind, the body, or the emotions are not well, you're not going to feel well or be well on this earth. The spirit is the only thing, because it's all light, it's all love, it's unconditional love. So it's not here, like I said, it's not here for me to judge. We each have that ability to connect with source. And that's what this Neptune moon is about. Connecting with source, connecting with the most beautiful place there is that quiet place inside us where we all connect with the divine light, where we all connect with spirit, where we all connect with our dreams, our hopes, our wishes. And that's the place. There's the most, I would say it this way, that's the place where we're all healthy and well and perfect. It's perfect. So I want to say thanks for tuning in to Turn to the Stars today. And if there's anything I can help you with on your life journey, you can contact me at turntothestars.com, or you can, like I said, Facebook, Instagram, whatever works for you. And I hope that you all be well, and I hope that you all are en route to having gatherings for Thanksgiving, which are incredible. It's a day of Thanksgiving. So, and I guess the clocks are all chiming in as I finish today's show. So thanks for tuning in today. I will talk to you on Wednesday. I hope you have a super awesome Monday, Tuesday, and I'll see you Wednesday. Take good care, and remember, turn to the stars and you'll find your answers there. See you soon.